I'd like to say, on behalf of the Scottish Pensioners Forum, thanks very much for organising this event today and for inviting the Scottish Pensioners Forum to come along and take part. Our pension has lost its purchasing power over recent years. The effect of this, together with changes to the state pension system and changes to the retirement age, have led to rising levels of poverty and poverty-related issues. This was long before the pandemic struck, and now we face a desperate cost of living crisis. The raising of the state pension age has had consequences. For example, low-paid workers are more likely to have to work longer because they can't afford to retire than those who are better paid. The WASPy Women's Campaign is still fighting for justice after the raising of the pension age robbed them of years of retirement and pensions for which they had already paid. Changes to the pension credit rules for mixed-age couples have meant the loss of access to pension credit as a couple for many people, and this represents a significant loss of income for far too many households. Successive governments have avoided improving the state pension and instead have offered older people individual concessions such as the free TV licence for over 75s. The free licence became part of the DWP remit, a welfare benefit and part of the government's welfare role in tackling social isolation among older people. This is clearly the responsibility of government, and it was funded by general taxation. Then in the summer of 2019, the BBC announced that it would be responsible for funding concessionary TV licences and that it would introduce means testing based on receipt of pension credit. This is a government spending cut, a benefits cut, and more than this, the government gave power to change social policy to the BBC in order to appear blameless. So, pensioners are being squeezed to the limit. Millions of us have to survive on a basic pension of either £137, that's for those retiring before 2016, or £179 a week on a new pension scheme. And many get much, much less than that. Now, the triple lock, which linked the annual pension increase to the highest of either wages, inflation, or 2.5%, is suspended. Some wage increases hit 8.1% last autumn, and the Tory government judged it could not afford that increase for pensions. So our increase is set at 3.1% in April, and by that time inflation could be hitting 6 or 7%. The suspension of the triple lock on annual pension increases at a time of rocketing prices, the growth of pensioner poverty, the worsening crisis in health and social care is just brutal. As one pensioner said just recently, there's too much month left when my pension is spent. But the government can do something about it, starting with reinstating the triple lock, reinstating the free television licence for all over 75s, offsetting the fuel price free for all caused by the lifting of the energy cap. After all, energy companies BP and Shell have just announced profits of over £40 billion, and Rishi Sunak has written off £4.5 billion of fraudulent claimed COVID loans. Many people will die in this crisis unless politicians at Holyrood and Westminster act now. And there is evidence to back up this point. We've known for a long time about excess winter deaths, cold-related deaths, premature deaths. As pensioners, we say they're poverty-related deaths, and the number can fluctuate between the years. Across the winter 2017 to 18, the figure was just under 60,000. and in 2018 to 2019 it was around 30,000 in the UK. The note attached to those stats, official stats, reads, "We may assume that hypothermia is the primary cause of cold-related death, whilst the greatest impact is among the older age groups." Still on premature winter death, the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health concludes, high seasonal, and I quote, high seasonal mortality in southern and western Europe could be reduced through improved protection from the cold indoors, increased public spending on healthcare, and improved socio-economic circumstances, resulting in more equitable income distribution. This cost of living crisis is not one that will be felt equally. Those in poverty already spend the highest share of their incomes on daily essentials. The American writer James Baldwin once said, "Anyone who has ever struggled with poverty knows how extremely expensive it is to be poor." Never a truer word. There is little slack left. Well-meaning tips to get by, such as wearing another jumper, a woolly hat, socks, turning your heating boiler down when you can't even put your boiler on, storing hot water in a flask, just won't cut it. We need living wages and pensions. We need a government willing to take on the energy giants, the food industry, the private health and care providers, the arms trade, and we desperately need the implementation of the many detailed proposals for immediate action put today by other speakers. The cost of living crisis is a class issue and must not be defined as a personal problem. Our priority must be to fight for a future that is based on solidarity and dignity. In 2022, we can no longer live in a society defined by extreme inequality. We must collectively act to prevent the further impoverishment of the working class. This is the position of the Scottish Pensioners Forum. Thanks for listening.